Sonalie Figueiras, welcome to Breakfast with Bobsy.
Thank you for having me.
And
I'm very
you, of course,
honored.
are known as the Green Queen in Hong Kong for many reasons. Brief introduction is you are the founder of Green Queen, and Green Queen started way back in 2011.
That's right.
And you are a platform for all things green and conscious, and you are a mouthpiece, pretty much, if you like, for this shift in consciousness and growth of not only plant-based food, but the whole green movement in its myriads of forms. And you are doing a wonderful job here in Hong Kong. And it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
It's an honor. That's a beautiful introduction. I am very humbled by the journey to get here, and kind of also the fact that things have really taken a turn last year, and I know you can feel it, and I know I can feel it, and everyone seems to be feeling it. So it's a really exciting time to be running Green Queen. And
indeed. And here's to first dope coffee together.
This is pretty exciting.
Cheers.
Hong Kong's first dope coffee. Oh, that's so delicious. The cacao butter really comes through.
It adds another dimension.
It really does.
We're actually very proud of our coffee, and we know it hasn't gone out to the public yet, but we've been secretly tuning it here for many years now. And soon we're ready to take V-Coffee as a standalone concept onto the main streets and really have people enjoy vegan coffees, but not just your average cappuccino and latte.
I think that's wonderful. I know that that's been one of your dreams for a long time, so it's wonderful to see it grow and come to fruition in a bigger way. And I think also, once again, going back to timing, this is the time for V-Coffee,
It is.
I think we were talking a little bit earlier about some concepts that started and kind of didn't work out a few years ago in Hong Kong and maybe across the world because, again, it wasn't the right time. Actually, I was actually having an interview. I was interviewing the marketing head of Beyond Meat earlier this week. He was in town. And he said that the founder of Beyond Meat likes to use this Victor Hugo quote that is really popular.
An idea whose time has
Exactly.
come.
And I think that is the quote of our moment right now.
And that's how I opened Life Cafe, with that quote. The email I sent to the people who eventually invested in me after trying for 5 years was...
You tried for 5 years?
5 years, from the Bookworm Cafe days.
Right.
I tried for 5 years to raise capital to be able to go into Hong Kong, like leave Llama Island and come into Hong Kong. 5 years.
Wow.
From early 2000 until 2004. And the quote is, an idea whose time has come is stronger than all the armies in the world.
Oh, that's the full quote.
He wrote it in French, so it was translated into English.
I'll have to look up the original.
But that is the full quote.
Wonderful. That's wonderful.
That's how I
you
was
started
feeling back then. That, I mean, the Bookworm Cafe was so popular. People were coming from across the border, from all over Hong Kong, and even from China, to come and try the vegan salad bowl.
People still write about it on TripAdvisor. I mean, it's still a conversation piece.
Yeah.
And the same thing when Life Cafe happened.
It's for sale now, the Bookworm Cafe.
Really? Well, I think that's a good thing to talk about too, because I think, as we discussed earlier, the idea is not enough and a business concept is not enough.
Correct.
And I think that you need that mission.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've just told me that, you 5 years you were waiting to find the right partners for Life Cafe, I think it's such an important lesson to our audience and just to everyone about how things require more than just a great idea.
Correct.
And they require persistence, and they require values that you have to hold on to.
Absolutely.
And it's very difficult sometimes to hold on to values.
Yes.
I struggle with that a lot as a media platform, especially in Asia, where I don't know if you know, but we don't have the strongest truth in advertising laws in Asia, and we don't have the strongest media regulation. So a lot of publications around us have, frankly, very poor ethics. They are essentially nothing more than ad books,
And
you know.
poor research too.
Well, that's it. And then, of course, there's no accountability regulation. You don't have to fact check. And this is a problem globally, not just in Asia. But as a result, it's very, you know, you see this all the time around me. People are hawking products, services, things that they love, and they're not disclosing that they're being paid to do that, you know, or media platforms are writing press that is really not editorial, but selling it as editorial to the audience. And that's been something that has been really difficult for me, because I am very, very clear on the difference between editorial and advertisement. And 95% of our content, if not more, is editorial. It is not influenced. It is not paid for. It is not, no one can touch, you know, our voice and our
The integrity.
the integrity. And it can sometimes be a lonely place to be, because it's easy, you know, to take the advertising dollars and to grow that way. You know, I've had to say no to many companies that want to advertise with us. You know, just the other day, a big meat and seafood restaurant, you know, they wanted to do a big campaign, and I said, I'm sorry, no. Green Queen is Asia's first media dedicated to plant-based eating. And we are committed to that since 2 years.
I bet they didn't like that.
Yeah, they just didn't answer my email. And they probably think I'm crazy. Why would I give up? And there was some good amount of money on the table, but it just, no. You know, my dad always told me this, my stepdad, you have to be able to sleep at night. You have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror. And that's really important to me. Even though sometimes during the day I struggle, because it's hard. You know, you're a startup, you're trying to grow, you want resources, you want to get bigger. It could be easy to take the easy money, but at the end of the day, can I sleep at night? And that's really important to me.
You're also too busy to be looking in the mirror, right?
I'm not much of a mirror looker.
Yeah, but you know, this book says the future is now, you know, and this sums up, I think, what we're talking about. That, you know, we've both been on this path for quite some time, and we've faced struggles and misunderstandings and misquoted, and you know, but the times are changing, and the people, our people, the tribe, is growing exponentially.
Absolutely.
So things that might have failed 10 years ago, 15 years ago, can succeed now. But you're right. On top of everything you mentioned, I would like to add patience.
Yes.
So you need your values and principles. You need your integrity. And you need to be, you know, courageous and acting from trust, and going ahead and doing your thing and failing one day and trying getting up the next day, and you know, but that requires patience, and patience is one of the virtues that is in short demand these days.
And in short supply.
Yeah, that's what I meant, in short supply.
Oh, I think short demand is true as well, in the sense that we don't value it and we don't appreciate it.
Correct.
But on top of it, very few of us have it.
Correct.
And the irony is that, you know, wellness has exploded as an industry, as a way of life. Everybody's looking for moments of silence and moments of retreat from our crazy, busy, urban, digital world. And yet, patience is not recognized as such, as an important part of that.
Correct.
That need.
Yes.
You know?
And inner growth takes time. It's not like you can go to school or university and get a degree and off you go. Inner growth is nurtured and developed with turning information into knowledge and knowledge into wisdom. So it's not a quick fix. Yet, because of social media and the way modern life is going, people want things instantly.
But I think we have this overarching culture of celebrating quick wins and overnight successes. I'll never forget the Oscar speech of Jeremy Renner. He won for The Hurt Locker. He's now very famous for his role as in the Avengers, but when he won, he was quite an unknown, and he was older. You know, I think he was in his late 30s or maybe early 40s. And I remember he said in his speech, you know, this overnight success took 15 years. And I love that he recognized that, because it's so easy to feel that people just, you suddenly hear about them and they're everywhere. And this is happening a lot in the startup and the business world, where we're privileging growth, we're privileging fast, we're privileging going as big as you can, as quickly as you can. And really, we're seeing now it's starting to show that the blitzkrieg approach that's so famous doesn't always pan out and is missing some crucial elements.
Well, if you want to be sustainable, you can have a flash in the pan success overnight, like you see with so many restaurants in Hong Kong. But if you want to win awards year after year and stay the course, you need to put in your 10,000 hours. The famous quote.
Malcolm Gladwell, yes.
Yeah, and he quoted the Beatles. He referred to the Beatles as having had put in 10,000 hours already, playing night after night in Hamburg in a small crypt underground before they burst onto the global scene. But they'd already put in their homework, their time, their effort. They turned information into knowledge and knowledge into wisdom. So we forget that.
We 100%
on social media, you can get you can get 1 million followers overnight. But will you be around in 10 years' time? Will you be of value in 5 years' time? Will you be consistent?
And do you have the credibility?
Yeah.
I do believe that one of the things that I've earned is my credibility, as have you, for being in this space for almost a decade, and really kind of
True that.
Well, in your case, multiple decades. For myself, we're coming on to 9 years. I'm sorry, but you cannot accelerate what I've learned in 9 years in 2 months. No matter how much passion you have, and no matter how excited you are about this wonderful space, there are things you learn through doing and through being in a space for 10 years and watching the movement and having that bird's eye view, because you've seen all the things, and being able to kind of see the forest from the trees, and also kind of having experienced so many kinds of scenarios and ups and downs. So I don't know. I do value experience. I do value time. I do value expertise that is learned through cutting your teeth for a
Yeah.
And I know, I agree with you. I don't think it's a very popular thing to value, but I believe the credibility aspect cannot be rushed.
And talking of which, talking of time, when, if any, was your eureka moment, your turning point, the moment when you had this shift in awareness or shift in consciousness, and you went, you connected all the dots?
So I always like to talk in terms of what's your door. I have this concept of everybody needs to find their door. So for some people, their door might be fitness. They start going to the gym. They get more in tune with their body. Then they start wondering, what am I eating? And so then the nutrition comes.
Like the entry point.
Exactly, the entry point. For some other people, they might try a yoga class, and that turns them around. And through yoga, they learn about meditation, and they learn about vegetarianism, because that's the philosophy of yoga.
Some people get run over by a bus, and ping, zing, it happens.
That would definitely be a more negative way to start the journey. But for some people, they become plastic free, and they go on this plastic crusade. And then eventually they connect the dots between plastic and eating seafood, and then eventually cruelty to animals. And so I think everyone has a door, and my door was definitely my door was definitely health. I had a few very serious health conditions. I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune disease whereby your thyroid sort of creates antibodies and kind of attacks itself. And I also have endometriosis, which is a condition that affects 1 in 10 women and involves basically things don't work as well as they should down there, and it's very painful. And neither of these conditions have a cure. So I spent a lot of my formative years going to doctors everywhere, and no one ever being able to find what was wrong. And no one was terribly interested to solve these problems, because there's no money behind these diseases. There's no medication. So what do? You resort to yourself. I'm a research nerd by heart. I'm a liberal arts major, so I'm very schooled in the ways of how to learn information on my own. So I went down a path, and that's when I first made the connection that what you eat and how you feel are incredibly linked. And that's after that came but what am I eating and where is it coming from? And once I discovered kind of pesticides in food, that's when that was my eureka moment, in terms of really going, whoa, 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 whoa. I've been living the wrong way. And the thing that I couldn't understand is why wasn't everyone talking about it? Why was everyone not saying we need to eat organic? Why were doctors not saying to me, the way you eat is affecting how you feel? I couldn't understand. I couldn't understand if people had the information, why things weren't changing. And this was the beginning of my journey. I was very naive, and I still didn't understand that for a movement to happen, it's more than just the information being out there. Because if all we needed was the information being out there, then the whole world would be fine, because all the information is already out there if you know where to look and you're willing to absorb it. But of course, life is more complicated than that. So that was my eureka moment all the way back in the early 2000s. And then that led to, okay, so what is agriculture doing to our planet? And, it's not just what I'm eating, it's the products I'm using. And they have toxins in it. And then, not only are the toxins affecting my health and making my hormone conditions worse, but they're going into our waterways and they're killing our fish and destroying our soil. And it's all linked. Yeah. And so that's one of the things that's really unique about Green Queen that I don't think most people maybe realize, is that we are not just wellness and we are not just eco. We're eco wellness. So there's a lot of media out there that's very focused on health and wellness, okay? Which I would call the you part. All about your body and your health and your needs. The me. Yeah. Sorry, the me, I should say. Not you. But basically, ourselves. And then there's a lot of media out there that's focused on sustainability. So the planet, the issues, what we're doing with our environment. But what was different about Green Queen from day one was the connection between the two. So we were talking about zero waste life. Back when we started, we were talking about eating more plants back when we started, but we were also talking about, why it's great to go to the gym and do strength training. So it was all linked to me, because for me, the eureka moment happened, it linked the two. So that's really when things changed.
It's a holistic way of looking at the world, right? Because whether you're talking about yoga, wellness, plant-based diets, green businesses, NGOs, Pilates, any esoteric form of practice, green policies, green government, green administration, green technology, green medicine, these are all symptoms of a worldview that sees everything interconnected and everything made out of consciousness.
Absolutely. And I think that we need to make that shift, that connection much stronger.
Yes.
And I always say to people, and I always say when I talk on panels, I don't actually believe that you can be healthy if the planet isn't healthy. And I don't believe that the planet can be healthy if we're not healthy. So our health and the health of the planet are intertwined. And I will keep fighting for that message to get out, because I do actually feel like it's still very separated.
Just moments before you came, I sent an email, and it's a quote from Yona here. And it's basically the healing of the earth and the healing of the human spirit are one and the same. Neither can be achieved without the other.
I really believe that. And so that's why I call it finding your door, because whatever door you open will lead you, it will take you time, and you will go on a journey, and it will be at your own speed. But eventually, I don't see how you can be a real passionate plastic activist, okay, and then still eat animals. Correct. Eventually, I feel you have to make the connection. Right? Especially seafood. Yeah. Because, I go to schools a lot, and I do a lot of school talks, and I always say to the kids, what's the number one cause of plastic in the ocean? And most people are always, they'll go plastic straws or plastic bags. We've really convinced people about plastic straws and plastic bags. Yeah. But unfortunately, the answer is, of course, fishing nets. And so I really... The
deeper answer is you, the students.
Right. We try not to be
Or
allocating
you could
blame,
say us
but
to be more
always they're always shocked. And so for me, you've got to make that connection. In the same way that how can you go to the gym and be really fit and really care about your body, but you're not putting in your body whole foods that are, grown with love in soil that is healthy.
Yes.
Right? To me, it's the same thing. So I feel like the connection for people happens at different stages. And again, each door is different. But eventually, I do believe everyone is going towards the same point, which is...
That requires a shift in consciousness. Because if you don't have that shift in consciousness, for the last at least 500 years, we've all been born into a materialism paradigm.
Yes.
And that's a worldview that's supported by materialism philosophy. And it's quite fundamentalist in its view, and in a sense that a fundamentalist materialism philosophy, which you and I were born into, as were great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, at least for the last 500 years.
Absolutely. And its hangover has effects on me.
It believes, it swears by a physical universe. It only believes that everything in the universe is physical and there is nothing else. So unless our five senses can detect it, it does not exist. Unless our man-made machines and technologies can weigh it and dissect it and detect it, it does not exist. So this is the outer boundaries of their paradigm. So anything that doesn't fit into that, so can't be detected by five senses, or can't be measured and weighed by technology, does not exist.
Like most fundamentalist.
Correct, and they will swear
regimes.
By this, and they will give you PhDs on this, and they will cite all sorts of studies on this. It's a bit like a fish swimming in a fishbowl. It cannot see outside of its fishbowl. And the same, we are trapped within this materialism worldview.
We are trapped.
And we don't know it. It's just like fish aren't aware of water.
I think that we know it even if we don't understand it.
Well,
I think that there are...
To differ, you know it. You've become aware of it in the last 10 years. And some people have been aware of it for a long time. And some people have been shouting from the mountains for hundreds of years. William Blake, Emerson, Thoreau, Shelley, Keats, all the poets, all the philosophers, Tesla. But what I mean by when I talk about we, I'm talking about humanity.
No, I know. I don't mean me at all. I just mean that I think that there are actually symptoms that show that maybe we don't understand it and we don't know it, but we're feeling the effects of it.
Oh, obvious now.
So that we're feeling, we're trapped, we're anxious, we're unhappy, we are lacking purpose, we're lacking drive, we're scared of intimacy, depression is all around us. I think that it's there. We don't know we haven't connected that all of these things are related to this, and we haven't connected that these are things that are basically stopping us and limiting us.
And when you have that shift in awareness, that transformation, you go, oh my God. You see the connection of all the dots. They are no longer separate. And you realize, and it's a powerful realization, it's a powerful internal revolution that shifts everything. Not just how you eat, but how you educate your children, what books you read,
how you live.
How you live. Your whole view of your whole worldview shifts.
You just when my eureka moment happened, I had to change everything.
And how exciting is that?
It was so exciting, but it was also so, once again, I was very much on my own island. I didn't know you. I didn't know other people. People thought I was crazy.
Isn't that troubling? Because your parents don't understand you. Your friends don't understand you. People around you see you as the black sheep, as the odd one out.
Of course.
And it can be quite lonely. That's why I titled this, You Are Not Alone. And this comes from, all manners packaging, if you've noticed, is wrapped in this concept. And it's actually, you are not alone, and that's what it stands for. Wow. And this came out of my school talks, because kids would come up to me afterwards and say, oh, Bobsy, I loved everything you said, and I want to be vegetarian, but my parents won't let me. And I'd say, don't worry, you are not alone. There are millions of us, now today hundreds of millions of us, who are already shifting and making the connection and realizing that we've been trapped in this materialism paradigm for at least 500, 600 years. And those of us who are breaking the chains and bursting from this paradigm and realizing that there is another paradigm called the consciousness paradigm, are deeply impassioned, deeply motivated change makers, entrepreneurs, eco-entrepreneurs, visionaries, artists, creators, writers, authors. They're not only transforming their lives, but they're taking their vocation and making a living out of it. And we see this sea change happening across every dimension of human life. And that's what I've always meant by you are not alone. We are not alone. There's hundreds of millions of us today growing exponentially. So if we sit down in another 10 years' time and have this conversation, all of humanity might have shifted consciousness.
That's the dream.
Or there could be by then maybe close to 2 billion people who've shifted, and maybe the tipping point that Malcolm Gladwell talks about might have happened with the sheer number of people who've transformed.
What I find so inspiring is how many people write to me every day and say, Green Queen, I want to change my life. I want to change my job. I want to work in a company or for a cause that really matters. Do you know where I can look? And it's so incredible. It used to happen maybe once every couple months, and now it's almost every day.
And how exciting is that?
It's so exciting.
What more affirmations do we need that the world is transforming? Right? Because
people want to change.
The mainstream media, they're completely missing it. And you have to question, as a journalist yourself, how can mainstream media or mainstream institutions be missing the largest movement and shift in known history? How can they still be missing it and still calling it a trend at best?
Oh, absolutely. I was talking to an investor the other day, and he genuinely asked me, he said, how long do you give this plant-based trend? And I said, oh, no. I said very honestly, and in as polite a way as I could, I said, you fundamentally missed the point here if you think that plant-based is a trend. You can't put you can't put the cat back in the box,
no.
Or whatever the expression is, Pandora. It's done. It's out. The clown head has come out, and everyone now knows certain fundamental truths about our plant system and about the industrial agricultural complex of how we grow animals. And I don't know that, unless somebody gives us mass amnesia and drugs the whole world population, which, hey.
Some people are talking about
excuse me, I don't rule that out, okay? I'm not a deep conspiracy theorist. It is not beyond imagination.
It's feasible.
But unless it's that type of kind of mass brainwashing, I don't know that the message can be taken back.
So our mission now as change makers is to speed up this change.
This is true.
Especially now that United Nations is telling us we have a decade to get our act together, otherwise there's irrevocable, irreversible climate change happening. So how can we speed up the change? So it's not a question, is it happening, is it not happening, are you on the right track? I think this was 15, 20 years ago. The mission is today, it's happening, our audience is growing bigger and bigger, the tribe is getting bigger and bigger, but how can we speed up change and actually wake up the people who still believe in the materialism philosophy and that money is going to make them happy? How can we, and we're all doing it in our own ways, we all pick our battles and
absolutely.
We fight our battles with love and knowledge.
This is though where I struggle. I come to you with an open heart here, and I tell you that going back to what we said in the beginning and how I felt in the beginning, I still feel quite overwhelmed that even though people are reading some of the same stuff that I'm reading and seeing what we're doing to the world, and now scientists are chiming in on a mass scale, and the numbers are out, there's data to support it, there's visuals. Social media has done many things that bad to the world, has hurt the world in many ways, but in one way it has been very good for the world, because at the end of the day we are visual creatures, and the visual aspects of video and social media like Instagram and has made it so that we can show images of what we've done to the natural world or what we do to animals or that have really, I think, accelerated change in behavior. But I still struggle fundamentally with how can people not want to completely change their life if they know what I know? And the truth of the matter is, I don't have the answer to that question. It is something that every day, at one point in the day, I have hesitation and sometimes, honestly, anger, sometimes disappointment. sometimes feelings of depression about it. I think the term now is eco-anxiety, but for me, it's not just the anxiety of what we're doing to the planet. It's the anxiety of and the depression of why is everyone not willing to change if they know the same facts? If you don't know the same facts, okay,
Yeah.
I'll share them with you. But once you know the information, once you've seen, photos of people swimming in Bali with plastic bags and rays, how can you not want to stop using plastic? How can you not want to if you know that, there's glyphosate in all our food, how can you not want to eat organic?
You know why?
Well, if you have the answer, that'd be great.
Well, first of all, you're human and you're on a beautiful journey, and this is why we've always had arts. Because the artists have always reflected that, whether it's through poetry, writing, sculpture. Have pity on William Blake. He was saying all of this in the 1780s and 1790s, at the height of the Industrial Revolution in the British Empire. William Blake, for me, is one of the greatest artists and visionaries ever. Now, have pity for these people who were singing this song and dancing this dance and living it 200 years ago, 300 years ago.
How lonely it must have been.
How lonely it must have been. They thought they were not as they used to.
I feel lonely today, and there's so many of us.
But today there's hundreds of millions. So this is a human condition. And now the difference is we are privileged to be able to share our passion. You through Green Queen, me through all the things I do. We have a privilege. And because we have this privilege, we need to act from integrity. And passion is contagious. It's like positivity. So you just got to kiss everybody and spread the virus. And this is what we're doing.
So do you think that's what it is? Is the antidote passion or positivity? Which one?
Both. Because you need them both. But it has to be founded on trust. Because if you don't have that foundation of trust, any wind that can come along can blow away your foundations.
And we go back to credibility.
And you see that often. So you need to have your trust. And I can share something that I wrote not too long ago in my sketchbook.
Oh, beautiful. I love your handwriting.
Thank you. And I've titled this is Your Destiny. So don't compromise your passion to match your reality. Rather, strengthen your trust to match your mission. For if it were that easy, your mission would lack the faith to manifest your vision. So we have to have trust.
What do you mean by trust? Trust in myself or trust in others or trust in the ideas that we are giving credibility to the ideas that we're spreading so that people trust those ideas?
Trust in how humans have always changed. And that's always happened through a shift in consciousness, or what Willis Harman calls a global mind change. This is the chap who's influenced me more than anyone else. Everything in this book has come true, and he wrote this book in 1987, 88. So a trust, of course you need trust in God, whatever your understanding is of God is, or creative intelligence universe, or...
I believe in energy, in the global universal energy.
Correct. Most people in this awakening do. But putting that aside, you need to have full trust in how humans have always changed and will only change. And that's through a complete shift in consciousness. So if you look back throughout our history, you'll find that guns and bombs and revolutions have done nothing. They maybe replaced one king with one queen, or
they've
one
certainly killed people.
Next, not to mention all the harm they've done. So real change happens when we shift consciousness, or when there's a mind change or a heart change. So if you have trust in that, then you can connect all the dots, and nothing will blow your foundations when the wind comes, or when the next crisis comes, or when the next fake news or fake media or whatever it is tells you another story. So that's my trust. Now, maybe people have a different form of trust, or...
I love that. Yeah. I love that. I do love that, because one thing I do want to say is that, and I want to say this to the audience, I think it's okay to have doubts. And I think it's also okay to have cynicism sometimes and to question things. As a writer and as a reporter, that's something that I need to do and I want to do. I am not a blind believer. No. That is not how I live my life on any of these things.
Otherwise it becomes dogma.
I am not dogmatic. I always joke that I was born a Hindu, sorry, the joke is not that I was born a Hindu. I was born a Hindu, and I am a Hindu by birth. And as my joke is always, well, as a Hindu, I don't believe in converting people. That is a very Christian or kind of
evangelical.
Not even just evangelical. Just it's a only not as a you can't kind of convert someone to Hinduism, you know. And I really just don't believe in that. I don't think that's the way to convince people. I have no interest in kind of like really pushing that way. For me, and that's why we say our mission at Green Queen is to inform, inspire, and empower in that order. First, we share the information, then we inspire you with it, with stories of people doing wonderful things and great ideas and things that make you feel things inside. And lastly, we empower you by giving you resources to make changes. But for me, it's still important to always question. And that's why sometimes I struggle with what am I doing? And is this working? And will everyone change? And I love what you just said about trust. And it's a good reminder. And it's something I need to constantly work on. But I also still think it's important to question.
We must never stop questioning. Never, ever, ever.
And we must be open to questioning.
Correct. My brother and I, he's 1 year older than me, and he's a beautiful being, and you know.
Where is he?
He's been in London and Wimbledon for a very long time. Now, he's a scientist, and he is a firm believer in the materialism paradigm.
Okay.
Unshakable. So unless science can prove it, he will not entertain it.
Sure.
And for me, I've been a firm believer in the emerging consciousness paradigm and the new sciences for a long, long time. So him and I have the most beautiful discussions. We never get angry at each other. We never shout at each other. He questions, I question. He keeps an open mind, I keep an open mind. And we have beautiful, beautiful conversations without getting angry and without doing the getting hot under the collar like Richard Dawkins does. As soon as anyone challenges him, he gets hot under the collar. He can't help it. He's a staunch materialist, by the way.
Of course.
He's a scientist, but he's a wonderful writer. So
I believe in science. I think there's a role for it.
Well, science has shifted consciousness.
Absolutely. And I mean, scientists themselves are saying we need to eat less meat. We need to change our habits. We need to stop with the plastic excess.
But more importantly, they're acknowledging that our current technology can't measure consciousness. They're acknowledging that consciousness has been the missing equation from the scientific worldview, from the scientific paradigm. And this is the beauty now, because science is concurring that the materialism paradigm is limited, because they've never entertained consciousness. So the traditional scientist who has been educated in the West or the East for the last 500 years will not accept anything out of that paradigm, like we discussed earlier. But the new wave of scientists are saying, wait a minute, yes, we need to measure and weigh things, but we mustn't forget consciousness. So Einstein, of course, was one of the pioneers of this with quantum physics and so on and so forth. But believe it or not, most people aren't aware that this shift is also happening within science, not just in people's inner lives and in technology, but within science. And as humans, as a humanity, we always have to follow science, talking about trust, because science is neither left nor right, it's neither up nor down, it's neither religious nor atheist. Science is like the barometer that we've always followed. Mm-hmm. But our science has also been trapped in the materialism paradigm until the last 100 years or so, where scientists are going, well, how about consciousness? The ancients have always spoken about it. The ancient Greeks spoke about it. The ancient Chinese spoke about it. The ancient Hindus,
of
India,
course.
was always credited that. But we lost it in the last 500 years, 600 years or so.
Shout out to India. I would say India probably led the way in this space.
And who came before India, right? Ancient civilizations that no longer exist, and we have barely any traces of them. So this consciousness has been around forever, scientific and otherwise. And this is why one has to have full trust in this shift, because it's also a scientific shift. And that kind of fills that fear and that gap that most academics have. They say, well, this movement is all fine and well, and yes, we can see it, but is it scientific? So now you can say, yes, it is scientific, and here are the studies, and here's the data, and here's all the information you need, that consciousness is a causal reality. Mind over matter, the hippies were right. They've been right for so long. Mind does influence matter, and matter does influence mind, and it's one and the same.
And I have to say, I have to credit the practice of yoga for opening the door on this for many people.
Oh, yeah.
I think that yoga is the gateway to understanding that connection between mind and body and consciousness and the material world, because it is a practice that really takes you on a journey if you open yourself to it.
We have to thank Mother India for this.
Exactly, we do.
The ancient scriptures, the Upanishads and the Vedas, they've all spoken about this.
They are one of the original civilizations.
And now science is going, oh yeah, now we get it.
I hate to say it, but like, if you look at the world, India's civilization is the longest that is still running, that still has the same philosophy as its core. China is not one of them, because China was united by the Qing dynasty later, whereas India has had the same books leading its philosophy and the same kind of outlook on how the world should be lived, how life should be lived, and how the world works since then. And still today, it's still very much respected.
Uninterrupted.
You know, it's modern Indians do still use aspects of that culture in their daily life. They have not completely, said no to their past. They embrace it.
Yes, absolutely. And
they're a model, I think, of how to live with, old and new.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that running from technology and running from modernity is the way either.
No.
We must accept what is happening, and we must embrace the change there too.
Absolutely. And that's why I mentioned my brother, because he's a staunch materialist scientist in his worldview. And I keep on saying we need science. We're not negating science. But science has evolved already and has been evolving for a long time. We need to focus on that evolution of science as well. And then everything makes sense, not just to you and me, but to also the capitalists, the corporates, the government, the science, everyone. It's such a beautiful transformation, holistic in its outlook, holistic in its nature. And therein lies my trust. And this is what's motivated me for the last 30 years and allowed me to do what I do, in spite of all the gossip and the challenges and the lack of funding.
Did you ever feel discouraged?
Not after I became aware of the shift.
And when did you become aware of the shift?
1989. But it takes a while. In 1990, Earth Day for me was so powerful. I was in Bangkok. I was running an eco-fashion company.
Really?
My background is eco-fashion.
Oh, I didn't know
We were celebrating Earth Day 1990 in this small, funky store in downtown Bangkok, Siam Square, Soi Sam. We had arguably one of Asia's first green shops, quite possibly. And we were celebrating Earth Day 1990, shouting it out, and we made these beautiful designs that had 1990 on it. Why? Because that period, from 87 to 1992, was a powerful period of change. This awakening was just bubbling and blowing up, and you could feel it in the arts, you could see it in the street fashion, you could see it in the graffiti. Banksy comes out of that, by the way. You could see it in the music, you could see it in the books, you could smell it in the air, you could taste it in the water. And then sadly, 1993, 94, we got very distracted, but the movements continued to grow exponentially, no doubt. But there was this big bubble of euphoria, and that's when raves started to happen, and ecstasy was being dropped, and people of all nationality, creeds, and colors were dancing in the fields together to the same beat, and this human potential was just bubbling and exploding, and we were all realizing that this is one tribe. And we have one planet, and we need to save it. Otherwise, we're going down the drain, And I was totally inspired by that period and shifted from normal fashion to eco-fashion. And eventually, many years later, discovered food. But for me, it's the same thing, whether it's eco-fashion or plant-based or green technology or solar panel
It's the
or
same.
wellness. It's the same.
Again,
consciousness.
different doors to the same message.
Correct. And once your mind expands with awareness, there is no shrinking back. Once your mind expands with a new idea, the nature of mind cannot shrink back. That's why I've been saying that awareness is the most sustainable resource in the hands of humanity today. Because once you're aware, that's it. Once you're aware of rubbish, you're going to see it everywhere, right? You can't not see rubbish anymore. And once you know how
to read an ingredient label, once you know how our food is made,
you'll stop putting poison into your body, and you'll make the connection between your wellness, happiness, well-being, and your physical wellness. But yeah, I mean, the door, as you put it, or the entry point, is very powerful, and millions of people are entering right now. And then once you start connecting the dots, you go, oh my God, this is so exciting to be alive in this time. And
that euphoric moment,
challenges,
I feel that from people a lot. I see that. They come to me and their eyes, it's like suddenly they open their eyes, and I can feel that they want to talk, they want to connect.
And on that note, I'm going to have to close this lovely conversation, because we can keep on talking forever and ever.
Days.
And let's keep that positive note there. And I thank you one more time.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
Guest.
Thank you, Bobsy.
And being my wonderful fellow human, passionate being on this journey here.
May we continue to inspire passion in others to find their door and change their consciousness.
So be it.